This is a drip rail, and it's at the center of today's story. We had a leaky one above our door, so I proceeded to fix it, which in turn led to other things. But before we go any further, a word about drip rails. Drip rails serve the same function on bookmobiles as gutters do on houses, or gargoyles do on Gothic cathedrals. Sadly, the folks at the MVA didn't allow us to have gargoyles, so we went with the drip rails instead. In any event, they direct runoff around doors and windows, keeping the patrons dry and comfortable, something that's popular with our patrons. Fixing the leak above the door was relatively easy, it just needed to be caulked. But when I was done, I still had plenty of caulk, so I went looking for things to use it on. And there was another job that had been getting uglier with time, the drip rail over the wheelchair lift. The problem was that, inexplicably, it had never been painted in any way, and so it had been rusting since day one. This, then, is the story of that repair. This is a Torx T40 drive bit. Torx is a specially shaped fastener system with star-shaped bolt heads and corresponding drive bits. I bought one so that I could remove the drip rail in order to get at the rust underneath it. The Torx heads are used all over our vehicles. If you look closely, you'll see them everywhere. They fit onto a ratchet head, and they do a great job even after years of weathering. I also acquired some Extend Rust Neutralizer. It kills rust and allows you to paint over it, and fortunately it's safe to use on bookmobiles. And finally, I used some Rust-Oleum with a classic low sheen finish to match our classic low sheen vehicle. I used 4 different methods of getting the necessary height to work on the drip rail. But first, a word to the wise. Don't try this at home, or at work for that matter. My favorite improvisation, as far as getting the necessary height, involves using a shopping cart corral. You just drive up next to one, you get close to it, and then you climb up on top of the railing, which is very stout, very strong. You get a nice stable base that you can work off, and you can get the necessary height to do the work that you need to do. It's quite nice. Once I was actually able to borrow a real ladder, which was a treat for a change. The method I used more than any other was my pickup truck. By backing up closely to the bookmobile and hopping into the bed, I had a nice working platform. I used it at the motor pool, after work, and on weekends. It's very convenient. I'm almost embarrassed to mention that late in the process, I realized I had a built-in elevator of sorts, namely the wheelchair lift. A bit more trouble than backing my truck up to the bookmobile, but it bears remembering the next time around. The procedure, once you've removed the drip rail, providing you have nice weather, is that you remove the rust through sanding or scraping or a wire brush, all of which I used. Then you apply the rust neutralizer, which gives you a nice hardened black primer surface and kills the rust. And then you can paint that primed surface. A couple coats is all you really need. Next, you need to caulk the rail where the drip rail is going to be replaced, and of course then you replace that carefully using the Torx-headed screws and bolts that attached it. At that point, all that's really left is to clean up some of the stains that the rust has left and to touch up places here and there that were scraped or rusted with some of the paint. And I think the finished result is pretty nice. Kathy's bookmobile had the same problem, and so it only seemed fair that I should repeat the process with that one too. And so I did. In the end, we must remember that rust never sleeps. So for us, the price of freedom from oxidation is eternal vigilance. Or something like that.